My name is Lisa Phipps, and I'm a candidate for Tillamook County Commissioner position number 1. And I'm running for office for a number of reasons. The first and foremost being that I find elected positions to be one of the most important ways to be able to give back to a community. And I believe that I bring to this position a number of skills and attributes that will help me positively affect change in Tillamook County. I have been involved in all aspects of government in Tillamook County. I worked for the Department of Community Development for 9 years. I was deeply involved in land use issues, particularly coastal resource land use issues, dealing a lot with very complex and often controversial issues. I was the certified floodplain manager for the county for a number of years, and I did all of the land use planning around all of our hazards. As a result of that experience, specifically, I was actually appointed to the the Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries governing board several years ago, and I think it's one of those agencies that's a little underrated but does an awful lot for a community like ours. It does all of the mapping for landslide hazards, tsunami inundation zones, floodplains, all hazards that Tillamook County has faced or may face in the future. I have been the mayor of Rockaway Beach, a position that I enjoyed very much. I was mayor for 5 years. I came in during a very difficult transition period and was able to lead the community through that. I believe that during that time, our government was open, became more transparent, and I really think that one of my main jobs at that point was to help the community move through that difficult time, and I think we did a good job of moving through that period. During that time, oversaw a multi-million-dollar budget, some very large public works improvement projects, including work done at the sanitary facilities. We had a number of programs get started, including a volunteer program at the police department, an emergency management committee, which was designed primarily to address the less catastrophic types of incidences. As folks know, especially on the coast, the power can go out in the blink of an eye and stay out for an extended period of time, and it was primarily created to deal with those kind of issues. I have a lot of experience in other aspects of land use, and as many folks know, land use really plays an important role in community development, economic development, and having an understanding of that I think is really critical. I am also the municipal court judge for the city of Rockaway Beach, and so in many ways I've come the full spectrum of what governance is, from policy making as a mayor to implementing those policies as a land use planner to the enforcement end of it as the municipal court judge. And I think that that's a valuable experience that I alone bring to this position. I'm also very involved in a number of volunteer efforts. I think those are what make me a better person and a very viable candidate. I'm the president of the Tillamook County United Way, and through that experience, I have the opportunity to learn about a lot of the needs that are going on in the community, as well as the organizations that are trying to meet those needs. I sit on the CARE board and am currently the treasurer. CARE provides assistance, emergency assistance to folks, and the need in our community is critical. I sit on the Tillamook Family Counseling Board. I am very impressed with the work that the Tillamook Family Counseling Center does and how it coordinates with our other health care facilities. I sit on the board of Open Oregon, which is dedicated to public records and meeting laws and keeping it transparent, which is very important in governmental transactions. And I also sit on a new board called Get Access, which is about keeping people in their homes for longer by making the homes more accessible. I was also appointed, elected to the Kilchis Water District Board, and that's given me a whole new perspective of what our special districts do for our community. It's amazing, and it's really I'm not sure everybody appreciates the level of work that goes into these special districts to keep a lot of our utilities up and running. I bring also the added final piece, because my time is running out, of having created 5 citizen planning advisory committees throughout the county, and those were designed to specifically re-engage the community with its government. And although it's around land use issues, it was also intended to be an opportunity for the government, county commissioners, to take advantage of those venues to be able to speak to the community and get feedback on proposals that are coming out. I think libraries are an important asset to any community, and our library system is phenomenal. I do support the levy, and I would ask the voters to support the levy in this upcoming primary. I think that libraries provide a service to the community that is really beyond compare. Libraries are open to everyone. It's one of the few places that you can go where everybody's the same. All you need is a library card. It provides services. Libraries have certainly evolved over time, and they provide services like access to computers. So people can go in, use the internet, do job resumes, do job searches, just learn more about what's going on in their community, research. I mean, it's a really valuable tool, and not everybody has the opportunity to own a computer in their home. And we're learning, of course, that having that division of internet accessibility where some folks don't have that opportunity is really actually quite harmful to their ability to move forward. Not to mention, of course, books and the services that they provide to children, to our teenagers, the programs that the library brings to the community, all free to the community, the way that they keep up with technology and offering e-books so that people can go in and download them to their Kindle of all things. I think that libraries are such a critical part of our community and really help emphasize the importance of education, about continuing to grow as people, and I'm a big fan of the library system, and not to mention the bookmobile, which then provides access to those in the community that can't get to the library. I really think we provide a very well-rounded service to the community. And when the library went to being operated on the operating levy, the community rallied. And for the past almost 30 years, the community has supported the libraries. Not too long ago, the community supported the new building through a general bond, and I think that has been a catalyst to development in downtown. The area with the library, Safeway, the bank, it's an attractive area in the city, and it's an area that's always bustling. And so I think it's also provided a level of economic development to the community, which we don't always associate with libraries. I really think that it's a hard decision for people to make. It is coming out of their pockets, and all I can say is it's an investment in the future. And I applaud the library for maintaining the same tax rate and will not increase it over the next 5 years, which I think is valuable, and it's forcing the library to work with what it's got, and so being fiscally responsible. But again, libraries are an asset to the community and really an asset to the future. The question about the roads is recurring throughout the county, whether you're talking about people being affected by the roads driving day to day, or whether you're talking about economic development. We just can't seem to get away from the issue of the roads. And the bond levy failed. Bond levy did not pass, it failed. And so we're sitting now in a situation where we have to look at other alternatives. And I think that there are 4 that right off the bat we can consider that will help fill in some of the gaps that have now been created as a result of reduced funding from other sources, primarily timber. The first of those is looking at a transient room tax. All of the coastal counties, particularly our neighboring counties, have transient room taxes. It's an expected component of going on vacation. Nobody plans their vacations around which communities don't have transient room taxes. And I think that it's a way to also get at a population who are using our roads, who are using our utilities, who are using our public services. And it's a way to ensure that they're paying at least some portion for that use. The second piece to the puzzle is implementing a systems development charge, which is associated with new development. And again, it's about making sure that the services are being covered by the people that are using them. And it's not about putting another block on development. There are so many examples out there now of systems development charges. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We can identify those pieces that work best and that will work best in our community. It's not about making it cost prohibitive, but about making it proportional. And I think that that's an opportunity that we've been missing for quite some time, particularly considering we went through a very significant boom period with development. That would have been the time to have a systems development charge in place, but it's not too late, and certainly there's ample opportunity in Tillamook County for there to be continued growth. The third piece of that is increasing partnerships, and I think Leanne Welch with the Public Works Department has done an outstanding job of identifying partners to help as we move through what is really kind of a crisis with our roads. And as County Commissioner, to take that to the next level, to give her the freedom to really engage other partners in the reconstruction of our roads, and looking outside of the box and outside of the list of traditional partners. I think a really great example that I like to use is culverts. So you have a failing culvert, which also happens to be a fish passage barrier. Public Works partners with the Watershed Council, with the Tillamook Estuaries Partnership, of which I'm the director, any number of organizations that are interested in fish passage barriers and removing them. Those two entities come together. That opens up additional sources of funding that the county might not have been able to access, and then you get two projects completed for the price of one. You've eliminated a fish passage barrier, and you've improved the status of the road at that juncture, and it's a win-win for everybody. And then the final piece is some time ago in the early 2000s, the county went from having 3 regional geographic type road districts, north, central, and south, removed those districts, and then attempted to go for a county-wide district, which did not pass. I think it bears considering again the notion of the 3 road districts, or some configuration thereof. Because when you look at how the road bond levy moved through the last election, the South County was very much in favor of it. And had we had road districts set up and that bond had passed in that portion of the county, they could move forward and they could start addressing their road issues. Clearly, roads were identified as a priority in that area. In our current situation, if it doesn't pass countywide, then nobody has the ability to move forward. Having these districts allows a little bit of autonomy and a little bit of the ability of communities to say, hey, this is a priority to me, and this is how we'd like to move forward. So I think that definitely should be reevaluated. The devil's always in the details. There'd have to be a big enough tax base, but then there's also fewer roads. So perhaps it does wash out in the end, but clearly we need to start looking at options that go well beyond the traditional tried and true here, because they haven't particularly worked out that well anymore. Can I say that again?
Sure.
Yeah, because they're not working now. Our oceans are one of our most valuable assets, and Tillamook County has the privilege of sitting on the beautiful Pacific Ocean with long expanses of beautiful beaches. And it also happens to be an economic driver for us, a recreational mecca, simply an aesthetic pleasure that people come from miles to enjoy. And so it has a significant role in the life of people in Tillamook County. With regard to some specific issues that we're now facing regarding our oceans and some potential developments or lack thereof, depending on the issue, it really needs to be looked at carefully and in a thoughtful manner, balancing a lot of different uses and needs that take place. And so when you talk about an issue like marine reserves, I sat on the Cascade Head Marine Reserve Community Team back in 2010 and sat on that committee with commercial fishermen, crabbers, recreational fishermen, conservation organizations, scientists. It was a fairly well-rounded committee really trying to represent a variety of interests. And in the end, this committee came up with a proposal for a marine reserve, the boundaries of which were adopted by OPAC and then just recently by the legislature. And our proposal for Cascade Head was actually approved by the fishing communities, the scientists, and I would be hard-pressed to say that we shouldn't have moved forward with it, reaching that level of consensus. There was some dissent, and it was actually from the conservation community, and because they'd been hoping for more. But my feeling on that is that we were able to reach a compromise that the fishing communities and the communities most affected by it were at least, if not, I wouldn't use the word happy, but we're comfortable with moving forward. I did not have any experience with the other marine reserves committees, and so understand that they went through a lot of discussions and a lot of energy and passion, and I cannot say one way or the other if the outcome was the best. But I do think that marine reserves have the potential to provide a sustainable future for the fishing industries, and hope that that's what comes out of this current process. The next issue is probably one that's even more challenging, and that's regarding ocean energy, wave energy, wind energy out on the ocean. And it is so unknown, and its impacts are significant. We don't know what it does to marine life, what it does to the floor of the ocean. Certainly, it's going to take a significant amount of available resource out of the fishing community's hands. May impact recreationists. And so I think it's really important before we tread into those waters, so to speak, to have a really clear understanding about the benefits and how they're going to come back to Tillamook County. The Territorial Sea Plan, which there was a great deal of planning effort moving forward, and a number of meetings throughout the coastline, as well as a couple in Tillamook County, I think really brought to the attention of those in the decision-making authority that this issue isn't one to be taken lightly. You know, another issue that's associated with it are view sheds, and what does our coastline look like, you know, in 5 or 10 or 20 years. There's just a lot of unknowns, and the potential consequences may not, there are a lot of unknowns, and the potential benefits may not outweigh the consequences. And so I think we really need to strive to listen and gather as much information as possible, and as county commissioners, make sure that we're making the best decisions based upon all the available information. Land use is a very controversial on occasion, but always passionate issue, whether we're talking about Tillamook County or anywhere else in the country, frankly. Oregon has probably one of the most, particularly when they were created, some of the most progressive land use philosophies in the nation. And as we've grown as a state and certainly as a county, we're starting to find that the devil's always in the details, and that sometimes what was good in 1970 doesn't necessarily make as much sense in 2012. We have a lot of land use issues associated with growth. Tillamook County is rich in natural resources, and so how do you balance development, which is inevitable, with maintaining our resource lands of agriculture and farming? How do you balance development with estuary health and our watershed health? Those are always big questions, and at the time the land use laws were being made, the idea was that through those processes, those balances could be made, not really taking into account that development also means an increase in pressures and different expectations. So as new people move into the community, what does that mean? And our farmland, our farming community is important to Tillamook County. It's really one of the cornerstones of Tillamook County. And frankly, our agricultural community in general is really a foundation for the country. The more this whole trend towards local, is so important, of really keeping small farms alive, of recognizing the value of our farming communities locally as well as nationally. And so how do you balance development with preserving our farmland? And Oregon's land use laws have pretty strict standards about that. Farmland plays a number of different roles, including maintaining open space, which you don't have to drive through Tillamook County very long to appreciate just the openness of our rural areas, the greenery, just sort of the breath. I was going to say breath of fresh air, but not always. But really, it's a breath of fresh air from coming from a city in a large urban area, coming into a place like Tillamook County. And it's a balance, and land use is a balance. We also have the issues of our forest land. Again, wide expanses of forest land, critical to not only the local economy, but to the county budget, particularly when we're talking about the state forest, which certainly is governed under its own set of rules. And maintaining, again, that open space, that very sense of what keeps Tillamook County special and a jewel in the midst of growth and development all over the rest of the state. I think that our estuaries are critical not only for our ag lands, they're critical for our fisheries, they're critical to so many species, they're recreation spots. They just play such an important role in a lot of people's everyday life, and water quality, watershed health really are very essential to our quality of life. I'm really happy to say that the Wilson River, which is one of our largest rivers emptying into Tillamook Bay, is also a river that for the last 7 years has actually been meeting water quality standards for recreation for E. coli. That is a significant improvement, and that's a number of worlds coming together: the Department of Agriculture, Tillamook Estuaries Partnership, Watershed Councils, Department of Environmental Quality, the farming community using best management practices. All of these things together have created a much cleaner Wilson River. And so how do we capitalize on those, and what does that mean in the land use perspective? And it's really about, just like everything else, it's about balance. And for me, having such a background in land use, and particularly around a lot of the resource issues that we seem to run into, I think will help move the county through some of these complex and controversial conflicts. They don't need to be conflicts. Economic development, environmental health, maintaining our resource industries do not have to be in conflict with one another and can in fact be quite complementary. So flooding is an issue that, while it's most often looked at in the city of Tillamook and in the Tillamook Bay Basin, it actually impacts a number of our estuaries, most notably the Nehalem, and certainly there are areas along the Nestucca that are impacted as significantly, but we don't necessarily have the economic loss that we associate with flooding in the Tillamook Basin as we do on the Nestucca. However, the Nehalem certainly, with having their downtown all essentially sitting in the floodplain, they've addressed a lot of those issues themselves by elevating the buildings, by looking at some of their management practices. As we get into a period where, there's might be some disagreement about it, but evidence that sea level rise is occurring, how do we address those? And, that all goes back to land use. But in the Tillamook Bay Basin, where, we have such a large component of the population sitting in the city of Tillamook, a lot of agricultural lands surrounding the bay, how do we deal with that? Well, I had the fortune of being the certified floodplain manager for the county. There was another one. And I had to deal with a lot of those issues through the coastal resource planning efforts, did a lot of permitting regarding fill in the floodplain, development in the floodplain, and how do we address those issues. And I think having that background is extremely important in looking to the future. I think that the county has put a lot of effort into looking at flooding issues, and although it is focused on the Tillamook Bay, presuming that there would be success, we're hoping that it would be applicable throughout the county. I think the Oregon Solutions process, which sort of was an offshoot of the feasibility study done by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I think it's gone a long way towards looking at how we as a community should be addressing flooding issues in this portion of the bay. And the project that's come out of this particular process, called the Southern Flow Corridor, has the potential to have the most flood reduction benefits of any of the projects that were modeled, along with some very significant environmental benefits. And again, that's a win-win for everybody. Restoring wetlands helps provide buffers against flooding, helps provide buffers against sea level rise, and having nature handle flooding and its floodplains the way that it should have a very positive influence on flooding throughout the whole system. I think that part of the challenge with the Oregon Solutions Project is, while it does have fairly significant flood reduction benefits in certain areas, it still doesn't stop flooding. And I think that that's where the heart of the matter lies, is it ever possible to stop flooding? And I think we've seen evidence throughout the whole country that it can't be done. We can try our best and maybe be successful for quite some time, but eventually those dikes breach, the dams fail. And so how do we work with it versus against it? And so you've seen a lot of elevations of structures downtown, a lot of removal of large fill sites like on the Dean property, which opened up pathways for floodwaters to move through. I really think that the Oregon Solutions Project has the potential to be a collaborative effort. There are over 27 people that sit on the committee representing a multitude of interests, and you know, it may not be the best project for some folks, and others may not be particularly happy about it because maybe there was another project that felt a more natural fit. But this one has a lot of potential, and the committee's moving forward with it, and the committee's committed to it. And I think that in the end, again, we're going to have a win-win situation for all: environment, flooding, downtown, and I think it will hopefully prove to be a very good template to move other projects forward. I'd really like to thank Senator Johnson, who was instrumental in getting Oregon Solutions into Tillamook County. She took quite a leap of faith bringing that group here. We didn't know what the outcome would be. It's been such a controversial and passionate issue, and I think that we've worked through it as a community very well. So this last question of how the county budgets should be managed is probably one of the more challenging questions that face the county commissioners right now, and certainly will into the future, of how to create a budget that can weather economic downturns, that is diversified enough that if one source of funding goes away or is reduced, that we can still move forward and provide the services that the county is deemed as critical or is mandated to provide to our citizens. And I think that last sentence gets to it quite a bit, is diversifying our funding. We place such a heavy reliance on our state forest in terms of generating revenue for the county budget. That's not going to decrease. You know, its Department of Forestry works with the counties, has developed action plans to have sustainable harvesting take place on state forest. They have a responsibility to look at the state forest not just from a harvesting perspective, however. You know, they have to balance the different social, economic, and environmental needs of our state forest, and that's a difficult balance to attain. And I think that they've been working with Governor Kitzhaber and other groups to achieve that balance. There are a lot of pressures that get placed upon our state forests and a lot of influences to move in one direction or another, and they walk a tight line and a fine line. And I sit on the State Forest Advisory Committee, which is an advisory to the Board of Forestry, and they run these issues by us, and they use us as an opportunity for feedback on issues such as, you know, what is the value of a forest, and what does conservation mean, and issues like that they need to deal with regularly. The other challenge with having such a heavy reliance on timber is that it is market driven, and so when the market's good, we get quite an influx of funds, and when the market's bad, we don't. And the way the sales are set up on the state forests, a company could purchase a sale in 2012, not have to implement it until 2015. So even as the economy gets better over the next few years, the revenue coming in will have been revenue generated at 2012 costs. So although in 2015 the value of that timber might be higher, we're still going to be paying much reduced rate at 2012 costs. So I think that we need to support our timber industry, and we need to support the state forest, but we need to do it in a way that's sustainable and manageable. So that means we need to start looking at diversifying our portfolio, looking at increasing partnerships. It works so well for roads. It definitely has the opportunity to work very well for other departments that we have. Really starting to step outside of the box and look at other ways to leverage funds that we have in the county. Maintaining our rainy day fund, which I think is extremely important. And then really the big piece in terms of the county budget is identifying what the priorities are for the county. And that requires some strategic planning. That requires the community coming to the table and giving the commissioners and the elected officials the input that they need to be able to say, here are two values that we have. How do these rank? And so that they can assess and prioritize needs. So health department, roads, other services that are mandated by the county. Being the public health official, being the behavioral health official, how do we balance those needs? And so partnerships, certainly, looking at perhaps ways that other communities have addressed some of these funding issues. There are success stories, and how do they get at that? And then finally, taking advantage of work that's already been done. Tillamook Futures Council did a report a number of years ago and asked the community, what's important to you? It made a great foundation. The county just went through a really broken down strategic planning process just to help with this current budget, and that's the first time that's happened. The county needs a business plan to help guide us as we move into the future. This is something that should have been done a long time ago, but we find ourselves in a situation of having to do it now, and now is better than later. And I think as county commissioner, I'm going to be able to bring that vision and that concept to the table and help move the county forward. So we get this final question of anything else that we want to tell the public, and I was embarrassed after the first question because I failed to talk about my current position, which is as the executive director of the Tillamook Estuaries Partnership, and that has been a great experience. It is a great organization, and really, in many ways, carries forth the premise that I would carry into county government, and that's partnerships and bringing community together, and we do a very good job of that. And it's also given me the opportunity to, again, look beyond the traditional types of industries when we talk about improving the local economy. The restoration economy plays a large role in coastal areas. My organization alone brought over $3 million from a single grant source into the community over the last 9 years. That's a significant amount of money, and it's going into jobs, it's going into retail businesses, it's going into buying supplies, it's going into hiring contractors. And so whether it's at the local level or a more regional level, because sometimes you have to get contractors from outside the area, it's still coming back into the state of Oregon, and so that's significant. So there's this whole notion of restoration economy and what that means, and how clean water and healthy riparian areas and a healthy estuary feed into better agricultural areas and a better way of life for those who recreate, and a healthier community, and so that's really important to me, and it isn't in conflict with the other types of industries that we have here historically. It's not in conflict with forestry or farming or fishing. They really should complement one another, and I think we need to really move away from this notion of us and them and really start talking about we. I think that the other thing that I'd like to talk about in terms of what's important for me coming into this position is reconnecting people with our government. You hear a lot about, particularly the further away you get from the city of Tillamook, which is the county center, the county seat, you start hearing people talking about feeling this real disconnect with its local government, and how do we re-engage people and get them involved in what's happening in the community, because it's really easy in our day-to-day life to just focus on making it through the day, but there's so much happening at the county level that they can influence and provide valuable feedback into. And I would like to work towards re-engaging the public. And so we have the citizen planning advisory committees, which I helped create, looking at ways to create similar organizations throughout the county, really reconnecting with the cities and partnering with them on, which I think right now the county does a good job of, but really encouraging and enhancing those partnerships. Making ourselves more available, perhaps having office hours in different parts of the county, just so people don't have to take half a day in some parts of the county to drive all the way to Tillamook. And so that's an issue that's really important to me, because it's one that I've heard since I've been here, and one that I really feel like I bring the skill set to move forward. And then I guess finally, you know, this is the ultimate job interview. You're sitting in front of 15,000 plus people who have to make a decision about whether or not you should have this job. And I really do believe that with my educational background, my job experience, my volunteer opportunities, well, they're opportunities, but also my experiences, a real proven effort and commitment to Tillamook County. And I believe all of those make me a very solid, well-rounded, balanced candidate that can work well with the two sitting commissioners. I enjoy both of the two commissioners, have had relationships with them for the last 12 years, believe we would work very well together, and have good relationships in the community, and have partnerships that I've built over the last 12 years that I'm going to be able to bring to the table. And I really feel that in 2013 that the three of us will be able to pick up and move forward in a way that's meaningful for the community, and that the community is engaged and believes in.